Greetings and welcome to the 2020 virtual event for the Asian Pacific American Awards for Literature. My name is Alana Aiko-Moore, and I am the immediate past president of the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association, also known as APALA. APALA was founded 40 years ago by librarians from diverse backgrounds from Asian and Pacific Islander ancestries in order to create an organization that met the needs of our libraries and our communities. We are delighted to have you here today, joining us to share our joy and excitement in honoring the winners of our literature awards today. In these unprecedented times, building community and connection is so important, even virtually. And we are excited to be here today and to gather virtually and to celebrate our resilience, our diverse communities, our histories, and our stories, and to have our voices represented. It's especially meaningful during this time when there's such a rise in anti-Asian sentiment, anti-Pacific Islander sentiment, and rampant xenophobia. So moving on, as you know, our awards celebrate our culture and our heritage, and our winners are selected based on their literary and artistic merit. And we have so many amazing winners here today. I'd like to start first, though, by thanking all the committee members who have devoted their time and energy in service of selecting our awards through their literature committee appointments. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who have served on the committees for adult fiction, adult nonfiction, children's literature, young adult literature, and picture book. We really couldn't do it without you. And finally, these awards are made possible by the hard work and organizational skills of our fabulous co-chairs, Dora Ho, Ven Basco, and Helen Look, who make it look effortless but coordinate all the moving parts. Thank you so much. In closing, thank you again for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the awards ceremony today.
Hello, my name is Yumi Ohira. I am a member of the Adult Fiction Committee, and I'm here to present the honor title. The honor title is On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous, a novel written by Huang, published by Penguin.
Huang was born in Saigon, Vietnam, and immigrated to the U.S. with his family when he was a child. He is currently living in Northampton, Massachusetts, serving as an assistant professor in the MFA program for poets and writers at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Huang is a brilliant writer. He is a New York Times best-selling author of the critically acclaimed poetry collection Night Sky with Exit Wounds, winner of the Whiting Award and the T.S. Eliot Prize. His writings have also been featured in The Atlantic, Harper's, The Nation, New Republic, The New Yorker, and The New York Times. On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous is Wang's first novel. The story of the book is about a Vietnamese American refugee called Little Dog, who writes a letter to his mother who cannot read. In this letter, Little Dog describes his relationship with his mother, who struggles with her own inner demons, his relationship with his grandmother, who suffers from memory loss, and his first romantic relationship, which is both hopeful and heartbreaking. His intense feelings of loneliness and otherness run through those sometimes overridden bounds as Little Dog learns to define love and family for himself. In beautiful and poetic language, Huang leads us through a story that tackles issues of sexuality, manliness, race, and class. By successfully weaving together history, identity, and memory, Huang reminds us that our memories and therefore our stories are not unchangeable. On Earth We Are Briefly Gorgeous is essential reading for all.
Congratulations to Huang on your accomplishment.
Hi, my name is Jenny Yap, and I'm the chair of the Adult Fiction Committee. The winner of the Adult Fiction category is The Atlas of Reds and Blues by Davy S. Laskar, published by Counterpoint Press. Lascar is a native of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and holds an MFA from Columbia University and an MA in South Asian Studies from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. She's been nominated for a Pushcart Prize and is an alumna of the Op-Ed Project and Bona. A former newspaper reporter, Lascar is currently a poet, photographer, essayist, and now novelist. Her debut novel, The Atlas of Reds and Blues, is the winner of the Crooks Corner Book Prize and was selected by the Georgia Center for the Book as a book all Georgians should read, and was long-listed for the DSC Prize in South Asian Literature and the Golden Poppy Award from the California Independent Booksellers Alliance. It was also named by the Washington Post as one of the best books of 2019. The book was inspired by a real-life incident where Georgia Bureau of Investigation agents raided Lascar's home with guns drawn and took her family's possessions, including Lascar's laptop, which contained an earlier iteration of this novel. It took Lascar many years to recover from the trauma of that incident. The Atlas of Reds and Blues is a thought experiment of what might have happened if a woman of color had spoken up against those agents. The nameless main character, Mother, is shot by state-sanctioned violence and lies bleeding on the pavement of her own driveway. That moment in the driveway is the fulcrum, and the reader is jolted through a series of nonlinear flashbacks from her childhood in the South with Bengali immigrant parents to her own experiences as a mother to multiracial children. In an interview with the Kenyan Review, Lascar says, "When you're looking back on a life, you remember both the uncomfortable and the beautiful. Each chapter recounts powerful fragments of what it is like to be a brown girl and then a brown woman in the United States, living in constant terror, forever othered, invisible, and trying to withstand everyday onslaughts of racism and misogyny. But a brown woman is not meant to survive in these United States." For its insight into the experiences of a woman of color and its lyrical language coupled with emotional urgency, the committee recognizes The Atlas of Reds and Blues as the adult fiction book of the year.
I just wanted to say thank you to the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association for this award and for recognizing the Atlas of Reds and Blues. Librarians hold a special place in my heart, and I was deeply honored that they recognized this book. I also wanted to thank Counterpoint Press for taking a chance on this first-time author, and I wanted to give a special shout out to my editor, Jennifer Alton, for taking this risk, and to my art director, Nicole Caputo, for creating such a vivid and unforgettable cover. And lastly, I'd like to thank my agent, Reiko Davis, who has been my true champion and has been with me throughout this whole process. Thanks again.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Bui, and I am the 2018 to 2020 chair of the Asian Pacific American Library Association Nonfiction Literature Awards Committee. Tonight, I will be presenting the winners for this year's Nonfiction Literature Awards. We'll start with recognizing our honor title for the Nonfiction Award. This year, that award goes to Anne Hui for her book, Chop Suey Nation, The Legion Cafe and Other Stories from Canada's Chinese Restaurants, published by Douglas and McIntyre. You may be familiar with Anne through her work as a food reporter for the Globe and Mail, as well as her coverage of politics and national news for the Walrus, National Post, Toronto Star, and Victoria Times Colonist. She has a Master of Journalism from Ryerson University and a BA from the University of British Columbia. In Chop Suey Nation, Anne Hui continues her work of food-centric storytelling as she takes off on a chop suey restaurant-themed road trip with her husband. Together, the two of them end up visiting various questionably authentic Chinese restaurants in small towns across Canada to learn more about the history behind these restaurants' chop suey dishes, their origins, and why their owners decided to settle in often remote and isolated places with very few Chinese inhabitants. Chop Suey Nation is entertaining, informative, and at the same time unexpectedly and incredibly moving. The story of Hui's family and their Chop Suey restaurant, along with the stories of other East Asian immigrant families that she interviews along the way, are familiar and relatable even to those of us here across the border. Together, these stories and memories form an important part of Chinese-Canadian history, as well as the history and evolution of food in North America. And now I'd like to present the author, Anne Hui. Thank you.
Thank you to the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association for this award. Chop Suey Nation was a very personal book for me, and so to have it recognized by the broader Asian communities is very meaningful to me. It's also meaningful coming from a group of librarians because I love libraries. I grew up going to my local library, which was Hastings Public Library in Vancouver. And, you know, that library was my safe refuge growing up. It was my after-school hangout. It was my summer camp. It was where I learned that I loved to read, and probably a big reason why I eventually became a writer as well. In fact, parts of this book was written at one of my local libraries. So for many, many, many reasons, this book wouldn't exist if not for the great work that all of you do. So thank you for this award. Thank you for your great work, and thank you.
Next, we'll be recognizing the winner of the 2020 Nonfiction Award. I am proud to announce that this year's winner is Gordon Chang for his book, Ghost of Gold Mountain, the epic story of the Chinese who built the Transcontinental Railroad, published by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. Professor Chang is currently the Olive H. Palmer Professor in Humanities and Professor of History at Stanford University, where he also serves as Director of the Center for East Asian Studies and co-director of the Chinese Railroad Workers in North America project. His research focuses on Asian American history and U.S.-East Asian relations, among other things. In Ghost of Gold Mountain, we learn that there are very few primary sources in the form of diaries and letters available from the Chinese who helped build the railroads that connected the United States and boosted its post-Civil War economy. Despite the dearth of materials, Professor Chang creatively uses less obvious primary sources such as payrolls, immigration logs, and reports from archaeological findings to piece together a fascinating narrative of the early Chinese migrants that manages to help fill this glaring gap in the field of American history. Towards the end of his book, Professor Chang writes that for many descendants, the tremendous contribution their ancestors made to completing the railroad firmly establishes the Chinese within the fabric of the modern American nation. The railroad, it is seen, made the country's boom in the latter 19th century possible, and it was the Chinese who made the railroad possible. The labor of the railroad Chinese is thus the purchase of and the irrefutable claim to American place and identity. As the acclaimed writer Maxine Hong Kingston has written, after the Civil War, Chinamen banded the nation north and south, east and west, with crisscrossing steel. They were the binding and building ancestors of this place. This bit of history is especially worth making note of in this chaotic time in the world, with xenophobia making a resurgence and Americans once again raising questions about American socio-political economic systems and American identity. And so, in conclusion, for its significant contribution to our understanding of Asian American history, we present the Nonfiction Award to Ghost of Gold Mountain, the epic story of the Chinese who built the Transcontinental Railroad. Thank you. And now we'll hear from Professor Chang himself.
Hello, I'm Gordon Chang. I wish I could say I'm speaking from sunny Hawaii, but I'm actually here at home in sunny California. But thank you to the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association for giving me this award for my book, Ghost of Gold Mountain. I'm very proud and happy and honored to receive it from you. It's a very meaningful award. The award here reads, the APALA presents Ghost of Gold Mountain, the epic story of the Chinese who built the Transcontinental Railroad by Gordon H. Chang, published by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. As the adult nonfiction winner of the Asia Pacific American Awards for Literature, for its excellence in the literary quality and the promotion of Asian Pacific Americans and their heritages at the APALA Literature Awards Ceremony, Summer 2020. Signed by Alana Aiko Moore, APALA President, Amimi Bui, Adult Nonfiction Committee Chair, and Lessa K. Palayo Lozada, Executive Director. As I say, I'm delighted to receive this and most honored, and thank you very much. This will go a long way to helping propagate the story of the Chinese railroad workers who helped build America. Best wishes to you all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Young, and I am the chair of the Youth Literature Committee, here to present the winners. The honor book is Frankly in Love by David Yoon, published by G.P. Putnam's Sons, an imprint of Penguin Young Readers, a division of Penguin Random House, LLC. David Yoon grew up in Orange County, California, and now lives in Los Angeles with his wife, novelist Nicola Yoon, and their daughter. He drew the illustrations for Nicola's #1 New York Times bestseller, Everything, Everything. Frankly in Love is his first novel. Frank Lee is a second-generation Korean-American growing up in Southern California. He is a good student, an RPG geek, and strives to meet the high expectations of his parents. Frank even attends monthly meetings with other Korean parents and their kids, who he refers to as the limbos, mostly to appease his parents. But Frank has one problem. Though he is dating the girl of his dreams, Britt, she is white, and Frank is unsure of how his conservative parents will take the news. After all, his parents disowned his sister for dating a black man. Enter Joy, another limbo, whose parents will not approve of her Chinese boyfriend. Frank realizes that if he and Joy pretend to date, they can spend more time with their non-Korean partners and keep their parents happy. The perfect solution. For a while, their plan works, but while Britt's family accepts Frank, he cannot bring himself to introduce Britt to his parents, who have sacrificed so much to create a better life for their children. Then life gives them a twist. Frank finds himself falling for someone unexpected, and while things at first seem to be working out for the best, a family tragedy changes everything. With a cast of honest, heartfelt characters, entertaining dialogue, and a fast pace, Yoon explores relationships and racial nuances in an in-depth, matter-of-fact manner. Featuring a male teen protagonist, Frankly in Love is an exploration of love, identity, community, and the complexities of family in an honest, touching, coming-of-age story.
Hi everybody, it's David Yoon. I'm just so thrilled and honored to receive this lovely honor award from the Asian Pacific American Libraries Association for my book Frankly in Love, which I have right here. And it just means so much to me as a kid growing up, a Korean American in America in the 80s, and having really no role models to look up to in kind of any media, unfortunately. It means so much that I was able to help solve that problem by creating my own artwork, and not just sell the book and have people read it, but have honors like this that really are so validating in a deep sense, because we're all in this together and we're all part of a community, and we all realize that our stories need to get told more to an audience that is slowly growing more curious about our heritage and how we grew up and how we contribute to the American society as a whole. And so it's just like a tremendous honor. I can't believe that I have a plaque on the wall. I can't believe I get to share a spot in a list with George Takei. What? And yeah, I'm thrilled also just at a basic level that you like my book. It means so much to me. And I just want to say thanks again. And congratulations to all the other honorees and finalists. And hopefully things go well. We can one day meet up in person and celebrate together. But for now, thank you so much. And everyone stay safe, wear a mask, and thanks again.
The Asian Pacific American Award for Youth Literature winner is They Called Us Enemy by George Takei, Justin Eisinger, Stephen Scott, and illustrated by Harmony Becker, published by Top Shelf Productions, an imprint of IDW Publishing. With an acting career spanning 6 decades, George Takei is known around the world for his founding role in the acclaimed television series Star Trek, in which he played Hiraku Sulu, helmsman of the Starship Enterprise. But Takei's story goes where few stories have gone before. From a childhood spent with his family wrongfully imprisoned in Japanese American internment camps during World War II to becoming one of the country's leading figures in the fight for social justice, LGBTQ rights, and marriage equality. Takei remains a powerful voice on issues ranging from politics to pop culture. Takei has been a passionate advocate for social justice, outspoken supporter of human rights issues, and a community activist. He has served as the spokesperson for the Human Rights Campaign Coming Out Project and was Cultural Affairs Chairman of the Japanese American Citizens League. He is also Chairman Emeritus and a trustee of the Japanese American National Museum in Los Angeles. He was appointed to the Japanese-U.S. Friendship Commission by former President Clinton, and the government of Japan awarded Takei the Order of the Rising Sun, gold rays with rosette, for his contributions to U.S.-Japanese relations. The decoration was conferred by His Majesty Emperor Akihito at the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. This moving autobiographical graphic novel recounts how, as a child, George Takei and his family were sent to an internment camp during World War II. During that time, the loyalty of Japanese Americans was questioned, leading to unlawful detentions, rampant racism, threats of deportation for American citizens, and other dehumanizing situations. Entwining Takei's time in the internment camp with his adult experiences after the camp, the reverberation of the events of his childhood throughout his life rises to the forefront. Takei was born in Los Angeles, California. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, he and his Japanese-American neighbors faced racist attacks and social ostracization. After President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, Takei and his family were forced to leave their home at a moment's notice and sent to sleep in old horse stables before traveling by train to Rower War Relocation Center in Arkansas. They were later moved to Tule Lake Relocation Center in California. Takei recounts his family's imprisonment from a child's perspective, growing up behind the barbed wire fences. He watches his father take on a leadership role in Tule Lake, and his mother makes sacrifices to ensure the health and safety of her 3 children. He also witnesses the different ways prisoners reacted to the internment, whether enlisting to fight for the United States, refusing to sign an oath of loyalty, rebelling against the guards, or trying to make the best out of a desperate situation. With illustrations by Harmony Becker, Takei depicts the long-term effects that internment had on his parents, his struggle to fully understand what they went through once he reached childhood, and how this affected his relationship with his father. His sense of nostalgic past brings forward parallels to the present. A compelling must-read, Takei's story resonates with today's political climate.
Thank you so much to the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association for your selection of They Called Us Enemy as the winner of the Literature and Youth Literature category. Thank you so much. I'm particularly grateful that it's librarians who are bestowing this recognition, because it is you people, you folks, librarians, that recommend, suggest, and even assign readings to young people. And it has been my mission in life to raise the awareness on what happened, a dark chapter of American history after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Innocent Americans of Japanese ancestry were summarily rounded up en masse and imprisoned in barbed wire prison camps simply because we happen to look like the people that bombed Pearl Harbor. It is a story that has resonance to the issues of our times today. And so to be able to reach young readers and readers in general is so important. We together as partners are contributing to building an informed voters of tomorrow and contributing to building a more enlightened American public. So I look forward to our working in concert, and again, thank you very much for this recognition.
Hello, my name is Katrina Nye, and I am chair of the Children's Committee, and I'm here to present the winners. The honor book is I'm Oak by Patty Kim, published by Athenaeum Books for Young Readers, an imprint of Simon & Schuster's Children's Publishing.
Patty Kim was born in Busan, South Korea, and immigrated to the United States with her family when she was 4. Her experiences as a Korean-American immigrant influenced her work. Her novels address complex themes of poverty, culture, loss, and the search for identity with honesty and humor. Kim's love for writing and gift for observation led her to study creative writing at the University of Maryland. She received high honors, graduating with a BA in English and MFA. Korean-American Oak Lee has a lot on his shoulders. When he and his mother lose his father in a recent accident, he watches each night as his mother struggles to make ends meet by working 3 jobs, hardly getting any rest in the process. Feeling the responsibility to be the man of the house, Oak is on a mission to pitch in, especially with the threat of the electricity being cut off. After a failed attempt to help with his Oma's sewing job and causing more work in the process, he decides to take a more entrepreneurial approach. Oak outlines his business plan to start his own hair braiding business and finding a talent to win the cash prize at his school's talent show. Oak still faces hiccups in the form of a nosy classmate Mickey and a bully Asa. At home, he doesn't get any breaks with Deacon Ko, the lonely widower who is wooing his mom to his chagrin. Kim skillfully balances an honest depiction of the complications dealing with grief mixed with middle school. The detailed portrayal of a Korean American community within the context of a Korean Baptist church makes for a refreshing representation of a long overlooked American life.
Back in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, Asian American media representation was limited. We had Mr. Sulu, Connie Chung, Bruce Lee, Shogun, and Chinese couple in that commercial for Calgon, the laundry detergent, and absolutely no one in children's books. So this award feels really good and meaningful. Thank you to my publisher, Athenaeum, and my editor, Reka Simonson, for championing Oakley in all his complexities. He is a nuanced, flawed, not always likable individual, fully and deeply human, and so not the model minority. I think we're all tired of the model minority. We want a vast array of individuals so that representation does not depend on just a handful. We want to be able to create characters who are allowed to mess up without the fear of making an entire people look bad. That is the benefit of saturated and thorough representation. That is the work of APALA. Thank you to the Asian Pacific American Librarians Association for honoring I'm Ok and for making sure that Asian Pacific American voices are heard.
The winner of the children's category is Stargazing by Jen Wang, published by First Second, an imprint of Macmillan Children's Publishing Group.
Jen Wang is the award-winning New York Times bestselling author and illustrator of several graphic novels for young readers, including Stargazing, The Prince and the Dressmaker, and Coco Be Good. She is also a co-founder and organizer for Comic Arts LA. She currently lives in Los Angeles. In Stargazing, Christine's life is busy with school, violin lessons, and Chinese class. When her parents offer their mother-in-law unit to a struggling family in church, Moon Lin and her mother not only move into their living space, but into the lives of Christine and her family as well. Even though they are the same age, Moon appears to be everything Christine is not. She has no father, her family is vegetarian, she does not speak any Chinese, she's outspoken, and she's into K-pop. For the normally reserved Christine, Moon is nothing like anyone else she's ever known, and she's definitely, quote-unquote, not Asian. Yet Moon and Christine surprisingly become close friends. Moon also entrusts Christine with a secret. She sees angelic persons that remind her that she is not alone. Soon, jealousy, miscommunication, and a sudden medical emergency threatens their friendship. Wang is gifted at evoking powerful emotions through her illustrations and use of space. Her attention to detail, paired with personal touches, make for a compelling portrayal of the Asian American community that is both authentic and empowering. APALA is proud to have Stargazing as its winner.
Hi from Los Angeles. Thank you so much to the APALA for this award. I firstly want to acknowledge my agent, Judy Hansen, and the folks at First Second for giving me a platform for this story. I wrote Stargazing hoping that all readers could relate to the lives of two Chinese Taiwanese American girls, Moon and Christine, but getting positive feedback and support from the Asian Pacific American community has meant the most to me. And not only that this particular honor comes from librarians, and I'm sad we couldn't be together to celebrate this year. My heart goes out to all the librarians who are doing their best to provide for their communities at this time. This award is meant to honor an achievement in building representation in literature, but building that representation is actually the work of many people, many whom will never get that recognition. So I would like to dedicate this honor to the librarians and the APALA for everything they've done to provide writers like me this opportunity. And to my wonderful parents, Huang and Wang, for whom I owe everything and whose life greatly inspired this particular book. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Eugenia Bay, and I'm here to present the honor book for the Picture Book Award. The honor book is Bilal Cook's Doll, written by Aisha Saeed and illustrated by Anusha Saeed, published by Salon Reads / Simon & Schuster Books for Young Readers, an imprint of Simon & Schuster Children's Publishing. Aisha Saeed is a New York Times best-selling author. Her books include Written in the Stars, which was listed as a best book of 2015 by Bank Street Books and a 2016 Yalso Quick Pick for reluctant readers. She also wrote Amal Unbound, a summer 2018 Indie Next Pick, Amazon Best Book of the Month, and a Global Read Out Aloud for 2018. Aisha is also a founding member of the nonprofit We Need Diverse Books, and she has been featured on MTV, The Huffington Post, NBC, the BBC, and the Orlando Sentinel. Anusha Saeed is a Pakistani-Canadian freelance illustrator and character designer for animation based in Toronto. She graduated with a BFA in illustration in Lausanne, Switzerland. She is always looking for new projects and creative opportunities. 6-year-old Bilal's father, Abu, announces one morning that he is going to make chana dal, a South Asian lentil dish that cooks slowly all day. Bilal's friends have never eaten it before and are excited to try it. The friends help prepare onions, ginger, garlic, cilantro, and squeeze lemons as the final flourish to the dal, and they share a meal made all the more delicious by teamwork and friendship. The APALA Picture Book Committee selected Bilal Cook's Dal for its heartwarming story of friendship, family, and food across cultures. Readers can relate to Bilal's excitement over making his favorite dish with his friends, as well as his anxiety over his friends' reactions to something they haven't tried before. The book includes a recipe for chana dal at the end, so after finishing the story, readers and their families can make chana dal themselves, just like Bilal and their friends.
Thank you so much to the APALA committee for this honor for Bilal Cook's Dal. It means the world to me. And I am so grateful to you, Anusha Sayed, for illustrating this book and for bringing the text to life. I am so thankful for our collaboration. Bilal Cook's Dal is a story about food, friendship, patience, and it's a story about community and how food can bring communities together. I wrote this book for my children and for other South Asian kids for whom dal is a staple in their households and a food that they eat pretty regularly. I also wrote this book for kids who may never have heard of dal, who might be curious and to learn about something new and to perhaps try it for themselves. And that's why I included a recipe in the back of the book. It's been amazing to hear from readers from around the country who've tried dal for the very first time, and for children who have dal all the time, sharing with me their own family recipes and how they make dal. Thank you so much to everyone who has brought this book into their homes and created memories with their families with this book. I really want to thank Taylor Martindale Keene at Full Circle Literary. You were the very first reader of this book. Thank you for loving it and for supporting it. Thank you so much to Zareen Joffrey for your editorial insight. I couldn't have done this book without you. Thank you so much for your detailed feedback that's made this book so much better. And I just thank you so much for everything you've done. Thank you so much to Simon & Schuster and everyone at Simon & Schuster who made this book a reality. I appreciate the support a great deal. And finally, thank you so much to parents, to teachers and librarians for bringing this book into your classrooms, for bringing it into your libraries, for bringing it into your homes. Thank you so much for all that you do. I am so eternally grateful.
And I really do wish that I could be celebrating this award in person as we were supposed to do at the luncheon, instead of all of us in our respective homes quarantining as we should be right now. But I hope that one day I can meet all of you in person and thank you in person, because truly this is an amazing honor for me. And I am so, so grateful. Thank you again.
Hi, everyone. It's Anusha Said here. Thank you so much for the honor for Bilal Kuksal. I am just so happy for this award. I just wanted to say thank you to like a whole bunch of people for this. I've never won anything before, so it's super exciting. But I just want to say that this was Bilal Kuksal was basically the very first book that I illustrated, which featured a South Asian character and dealt with kind of like South Asian culture. I'm Pakistani, and when I was growing up, I never, ever read any books that centered around characters who look like me or around my culture. And obviously it was pretty isolating. And I'm really happy that now that I'm older and I'm doing this for a living, I do have the chance to kind of correct those wrongs and like be a part of books that treasure culture and try to make representation a really important part of, you know, the books that we create. And yeah, I'm just so happy to have been a part of Bilal Kuksal. So I just want to say a big thank you to a bunch of people. First, of course, Aisha Saeed, who who wrote this book. And I'm really happy that I got the chance to work with you on this, and I hope we get the chance to again in the future. I want to say thank you to Zuri and Jeffrey for taking the chance on me. I also want to say thank you to everyone on like Team Bilal, Chloe, Foglia, and Tiara, Ian, Diorio. You know, like I really appreciated all of your help to help create this book. And, you know, like coming together to realize this vision. Of course, I want to thank Taylor Martindale Keene, my lovely agent. And yes, I think that's it. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much. Bye.
The picture book award winner is Queen of Physics, How Wu Qianxun Helped Unlock the Secrets of the Atom, written by Teresa Robson and illustrated by Rebecca Huang, published by Sterling Children's Books. Teresa Robson was born in Hong Kong, grew up in Vancouver, and she is currently living in southern Indiana. She graduated from the University of British Columbia, and she loves food, sleep, physics, conservation/environmentalism, and birding. Rebecca Huang is an illustrator from Taiwan who is now currently living in the Bay Area. She likes to play with color and shapes with mixed media and employs printmaking and colored pencil in her work. Rebecca's debut picture book, Bobo and the New Baby, was published by Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. Queen of Physics, How Wu Qianxun Helped Unlock the Secrets of the Atom, is a picture book biography that explores the story of Chinese-American experimental physicist Wu Qianxun, an essential figure in the history of American science. Through vigorous and meticulous experimentation, Wu Qianxun helped scientists such as Enrico Fermi prove their theories, but each time she was bypassed for the Nobel Prize in favor of her male colleagues. However, Wu Qianxun continued to persevere in her work despite the discrimination she faced for her race and gender. She was eventually named the First Lady of Physics Research by Smithsonian Magazine and Queen of Physics by Newsweek. The committee chose Queen of Physics for its much-needed and timely story about a Chinese-American woman scientist whose contributions have been overlooked for too long. We consider this title to be an essential addition to STEAM and biography collections for beginning readers and families who are interested in learning about inspiring Asian American women role models. We are proud to present Queen of Physics as the Picture Book Award winner.
Literature Awards committee members and book lovers and book creators everywhere, I'm hugely honored and humbled to be here to accept this award, even if here happens to be in my own home instead of in Chicago back in June. It took 6 years from the time I first started querying and submitting the manuscript for Queen of Physics to when it was published. I never would have imagined, given all the passes that I had massed, that this story would one day win the APALA award for picture books. I'm grateful to my critique partners for pushing me to keep sending it out, even through the darkest hours when I was ready to quit. If my We Need Diverse Books mentor, Jane Yolen, editor Christina Pullis, and agent Natasha Morris hadn't all fallen in love with the story, Wu Qiansheng, arguably the greatest Chinese-American physicist, would have continued to be forgotten by most people outside of physics, and even by many physicists. Because my critique partners, Jane, Christina, and Natasha, believed in me and my story, Queen of Physics is now a book that is inspiring a whole new generation, and it makes me especially happy that Asian American girls who love science now have someone who looks like them to look up to. Most of what I write centers on my own love of science or my cultural heritage. With Queen of Physics, I was able to combine and share both passions. Thanks to the Asian and Pacific American Librarians Association's Literature Awards Committee, C.S. Wu is gaining greater recognition, and her life story will reach an even wider audience. Lastly, I wish my mother had lived long enough to see this day. When I first started penning my own poems in 4th grade, a year after we immigrated to Canada and I learned English, she knew that being an author would be in my future, even when I didn't see it myself for a couple of decades. This award is for you, Mom. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Huang. It's a huge honor to receive this award. Thank you. Thank you, Asian Pacific American Librarian Association Committee, for selecting Queen of Physics to be honored alongside other wonderful books. I wanted to thank my family for their support and encouragement. Also, Sterling Publishing, Julie and Irene, my agent Rachel, for making this happen. Finally, thank you, incredibly talented Teresa, for writing such a wonderful story. Despite a long history in the US, Asian American has not always been represented in children's literature. It was encouraged to read how much Jen Wang has accomplished despite the gender and racial discrimination. I still remember my first classroom visit for Queen of Physics. The classroom teacher told me she was really grateful to find a book that tells the story of an Asian American lady and how much she was able to accomplish while facing all the difficulties. It was a special honor to think my work was contributing to pass the message and story along to kids growing up. I hope to continue to do this work with all my heart.